All right. This is Sell Yourself Fearlessly, episode number 13. Good or bad news? It's up to you. Welcome again to Sell Yourself Fearlessly, the show for entrepreneurs who love what they do but hate sales. We're going to help you remove fear and uneasiness when selling your own product or service so that you can uncover more opportunities, spend more time on the things that you enjoy, and ultimately earn the money you deserve. My name is Scott Whitney, and this is a production of both the Scott Whitney Academy and Podworks. We're broadcasting from one of our two studios here in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. And besides broadcasting live, this content can be made available, or is going to be made available for that matter, both video and audio versions on demand at your favorite podcast and video distribution platforms. We're also on the social media as well. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good or bad news? This is completely up to you. I want to start with a quote from our good friend Marcus Aurelius. And Marcus says, "Nothing that goes on in anyone else's mind can harm you, nor can the shifts and changes in the world around you. Then what harm is to be found? It's in your capacity to see it. You need to realize that what happens to everyone, bad and good alike, is neither good or bad." I was reminded of this quote last night. I want to share something that happened to me last night. I was talking to a Vegas video co-op member, a new member. The way we do the co-op is that after somebody signs up for, in this example, 12 months, the first thing we do is we have a consulting session with them to get them up to speed on a number of things that they want to do to prepare for their video shoots so that when they come into the studio, we're ready to go. We're not messing around much. One of the things that we talk about is a particular storytelling process that we use that really improves the efficacy of your call to action. It turns what most call to actions are on top of their head. It's very, very powerful. It gets people to literally lean into what you have to say as opposed to kind of repel back. So I was sharing this technique, this methodology and storytelling with this guy. And he listened to it and he recognized pretty quickly that A, he was doing it wrong, and B, this was a much better way of doing it. But something really interesting happened. As we were getting ready to part way, he had his homework. He told me that he was feeling physically nervous, uneasy, like his stomach was bothering him a little bit. I asked him why that was. He's like, well, I just recognized that all these things that I was doing in the past were wrong. And now I recognize that it's going to be hard to kind of shift my mind on how to tell this story a bit more efficiently. Now, the news I gave him was, this is a better way of doing stuff. He decided to label that both good and bad. He understood that there was positive aspects there and he was excited about it. But he physically felt bad because he thought, oh man, all this work I did was a waste of time. See, he decided that this was bad mentally, consciously, and then unconsciously, he started to manifest that physically. Here's another example of how we tend to do that. I'm sure we've all received a call on our phone. And we look at the phone number, haven't even picked up the phone, but we look at the phone number and it's somebody who we've had a problem with before, and we immediately begin to worry. It can happen in email too, right? You see the email subject and the from, you haven't read it yet, but you're like, oh man, you start to worry and you physically feel that. Nothing happened. You decided that. There's a great quote. Worrying is interest paid on a debt that may never come due. As a matter of fact, if you really want to get wrapped around about how worrying is a waste of time, try to remind yourself what you were worrying about a year ago. There's a chance that you probably have no idea. It literally is interest paid on a debt that you may never owe. Why am I telling you this? Well, it's easy to recognize that our negative perception of something can create a negative physical outcome. Again, we're deciding whether something is negative or positive, but it's easy to understand that if I think something is negative, I can have a physical manifestation of that, right? How we physically interpret this outside stimulation is outside of our control. What I mean is, I don't intentionally want to have a stomach ache if I'm nervous, or want to be shaky or have a tight throat if I'm nervous before, let's say, I'm going to talk or something. Your body just does it. You don't get to control it. But how we consciously categorize something is completely within our control. Again, with that Vegas video co-op guy, he's going to do great, but he decided to make that a negative thing, and he owned the negative thing. He could just have easily been super excited about it and felt uplifted and hopeful about, oh man, things are going to get a lot better. And while he said that, he physically felt this, oh my God, I've got a lot of work to do. This is going to be hard. I may struggle with that. So why am I telling you this? Well, if bad things can make us feel bad, even though there is no such thing as good and bad, but if we say that that's bad and it makes us feel bad, then logically, good things should be able to make us feel good. And it does. I'll give you an example of that. The first time you saw your significant other, or you saw somebody who you considered to be attractive, you consciously looked at them and said, hey now, that's okay by me. I like what I'm seeing there. And then there's a very good chance that you physically manifested that feeling in one way or another. Now, I'm not going to go into details of how that may have happened, but you know what I'm feeling, what I'm talking about, that physical joy stuff that happens with people when you're excited or turned on by somebody. You're not consciously doing that. It just happens. So I'm telling you this because I want you to get in the practice of thinking good thoughts, of reminding yourself of all the good things that you do. But here's the problem. It's hard to remember all the good things that we do. We people, we human folk as a species, are really good at mind fucking ourselves, quite frankly. We're very, very good at that, which is a shame because all of us are doing good stuff. We just forget it. Well, how do you solve that problem? Here's what I do. I create a list, a wins list. And every single morning, I have a morning ritual that I go through. It takes a couple hours to do. But one of those things is I have a document on my computer that I write down the wins from yesterday, the good things that happened from yesterday. Now, these can be big wins, scored a $7,200 deal, or little wins, took the next step in the training I'm doing. Both are good. But what's great about it is when I remind myself or remember how I felt when I got that big win or I accomplished even that small thing, I can physically feel the change. It's outstanding. And it makes sense. Negative stuff, feel negative. Positive stuff, feel positive. We just have to get in the habit of thinking more positive stuff. There's a guy named David Groggins out there. He did a book called Can't Hurt Me. And that list that I'm talking about, he calls it a cookie jar. When he had a pretty rough life, but as he remembered the good things he did, he would put it in his mental cookie jar so that when he found himself struggling or under some sort of stress, he would pull the things out of the cookie jar. It's the same thing with my list. I have this list now, and now it's a page of stuff, most of which I would have forgotten because we tend to do that. But now I can go back to that list and remind myself, oh, that was great. Oh, that felt good. And literally feel that way. There's something else that's really neat about this. And that is the idea of relaxation. So part of my morning ritual is to spend 15 or so minutes, not a long time, relaxing, putting myself in a relaxed state and getting myself to feel physically more relaxed. My feet, my legs, my chest, my whole body. Like, if you do that enough, you practice that enough, you can then call upon that relaxation state whenever you want. So, for example, just then, when I was explaining to you how I am able to recount that, I felt myself relax a little bit. And it's because I've been doing this enough now where I can pull that memory to me and it allows me to feel better. It's fantastic. So if you find yourself in what you perceive as a stressful situation and you want to pump the brakes on that, you can just go back and go, okay, here's what it feels like when I'm relaxed. Here's what it feels like when I'm in my relaxed place, which might be, on the beach in Hawaii, listening to the waves. Whatever is your deal, you can bring that to you, man. And you can get yourself to, it's happening again right now. You can have it happen again to you, even if you're in a conflict-like environment. It is absolutely magic. So again, good or bad news, it's completely up to you. You get to decide whether something is good or bad. And I'm going to recommend leaning on the good stuff. Okay. All right. That's it. If you have a question or comment or a suggestion, send it to podcast at scottwhitneyacademy.com. Again, podcast at scottwhitneyacademy.com. A couple other things. First, Go Knights Go. That's why I'm wearing this. We've got a big game tonight. We'll be heading out to check that out. Also, some cool stuff on the Scott Whitney Academy front. I'm working really hard on a new webinar, my first webinar actually, that uncovers a new technique that I've been doing for a while, but hadn't really structured in this way. That is fantastic. It's going to be a big deal, I think. Super excited. It's about an hour long, very content dense, a lot of stuff to talk about. Working on that now. We're pretty close to launching it, making it available to folks. As soon as we do, I promise that you guys will be among the first to know. All right, that's it. Now go out there, think good thoughts, and sell yourself fearlessly.